Okay, this is from 73 Alec. He says, "Hi Ash, on my WLA, it starts much more easily when the battery has charged to at least 75%. Is this normal?"
Yeah, in a way. You have to get a certain amount of voltage in a battery for the coil to recharge itself and fire.
Yeah.
So you'd be getting probably a much fatter spark. Yeah. The lower the voltage, it will be harder to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not a threshold to pass.
Not particularly. I mean, it's not about how much charge in it. It's how much volts are in it.
Yeah.
You know, if you drop down below about 5 volts, then it'll probably start being a bit of a pig to start. It takes longer for the coil to regenerate to spark again.
Yeah.
So check your condenser, set your points up properly. You can do an ohms resistance test on the coil to tell you whether it's right or not. I think on the coils, what you do to test them is get your multimeter set onto ohms, touch the negative terminal first, then put the positive one on. I think if it reads between just over 2 ohms up to about 3.5, 4 ohms, then the coil's in good condition.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, I mean, it's you have to have enough voltage in it to cause that coil to regenerate to make a high spark.
Dogpaw 775. I need an oil dipstick for my WL. Can a Ford dipstick be used? Put in bends, cut in with a grinding wheel, maybe stamp with new level marks, i.e. can a spring steel be worked?
Yeah. As long as you've got a stop to stop it sliding down the hole in the tank, measure a standard one, put your danger mark on it and your refill mark on it, yeah, it's fine. Use whatever you like. You can stick a lump of wood in there, it don't matter, just as long as it doesn't fall down the hole.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got an original to measure to or mark to.
And don't advertise it as an original part.
No.
Ed Paticas 8777. Are there any recommendations you have for the case WL ran for 3 minutes with the oil tap off? As it is, I feel no signs of damage, but would you have any special recommendations on what to check?
No. One of them running for 3 minutes is not the end of the world. So don't rely on high pressure oiling. They rely on oil circulation more than pressure. They probably only run at about 3 or 4 psi,
Yeah.
which is nothing. It doesn't stop it pissing out everywhere when it wants to, but that's not high oil pressure at all.
What's the danger of having the oil tap off? Just as
It will blow it up eventually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you run it with no oil in it, it will burn itself out. But 3 minutes on one of them is not the end of the world by any way or form. If you're that worried about it, drain the oil tank out, drain the bottom of the engine out, have a look, see if there's any particles in it, refill it with fresh oil. I'm pretty certain it'll be absolutely fine.
What would be the signs of damage if there was any?
You get particles of metal in the engine. If the oil is very grey, that's aluminium wearing.
But where would you find that?
Only in your oil. All you can do is drain it out and
Okay.
examine your oil as
Okay.
it comes out as such. But 3 minutes on a 45, I don't think it would do a lot of damage, if any.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I say, they don't rely on high pressure. It's not a high pressure system. It's more oil circulation than pressure. Obviously, oil tap off, but whatever's in the bottom of the engine, yeah. Say it's been sitting for a week and there's that much oil in the bottom, that will then go through the scavenge pump back round the system. It's just not getting a fresh feed of oil, so 3 minutes won't do it any harm.
Another one from Dogpaw 775. Does just bouncing the front end against the braked wheel and feeling for play at the cup/fork junction not give as good an indication of the amount of play? Also, what are the repercussions of not using the fork crown plate with pin?
Right, okay. Crown plate is you've got your steering damper,
Yeah.
and the nut that holds the forks in on the actual headstock
Yeah.
is serrated around the outside,
Yeah.
and you drop your plate in and it stops that nut from moving.
Yeah.
So not an ideal world not putting that on there.
Yeah.
It could move, but as long as you've got that top nut cracked down hard enough, it should be okay. But I would recommend always using the crown plate with the pin. Yeah, definitely.
Is there a danger of over tightening?
Yeah. But the best way, yes, you can rock it, put it up against a curb or something, front brake, and you can feel the bottom cup and the top cup. If you feel any movement in there, then it's loose. If you do it up too tight, it'll not get notchy, and that will pretty much, it wouldn't take very long to ruin those cups. So you've got to get new bottom cup, new top cup. If you've got the facility, the best way to do it is jack the front wheel off the floor. You can get hold of the bottom of the forks by the rockers, and you can feel for movement. That's the best way to do it, realistically. But yeah, I'd always use the pin and crown plate. Yeah, just for that. Harley put it there for a reason. It's to stop that nut coming undone.
Yeah,
that's it. You know.
Marcel Shoemaker 6605 says, thanks to all the informative videos, very helpful. Question about this video. This is episode 108, if you can remember all that way back.
No.
I see you looking at a schematic that is not known to me. Is this something you can find online? We might have to look at the episode. I have a schematic of WLA, which is a bit different, as you say, and a schematic of 1949. I want to rewire my 1948 WL because it is no good, but it is not completely clear to me, especially the terminal plates. I think there need to be two, one behind the coil, which I don't have at the moment, and another somewhere else. But I'm not sure about this. Can you help?
It depends whether it's civilian or military spec.
Okay.
Military spec, standard, good old standard, your TM 91879, whatever it is. That is your military wiring diagram. So if it's military, you've got your 4, 5, 6, 7 terminal switch with your push button from going from blackout to normal lights. Once you get your head round, they're very simple, and what it's saying here, see, it's 18 and 19. They're your terminal junctions as such, yeah? So on the back of the frame, you've got a lug welded on. That earth wire goes to the frame. This goes behind. If you look above the coil, seat post is here. There's 2 holes in the frame there.
Okay.
A lot of people shove their plug wires through them and things like that. Those 2 have, you can buy them from any of your Harley dealers. It's an isolator as such.
Yeah.
They're your 2 junction points. See, this book will go through all your basic wiring diagrams and then the whole lot. Yeah, basically your 2 junctions are 18 and 19. Terminal box 48 and up. See, it depends. A 49 wiring diagram is different from a 48 wiring diagram. Like there, terminal wire screw set, under saddle, frame, all models. Okay, so that's it. You got one of them, 2 isolators that go in the hole in the frame. Yeah, one of those on the bolt, push the bolt through, put one of them on the other side of the bolt with that washer behind it. That's to stop any loose ends of your terminals touching the frame, and put your nut on, and then a locking nut. So they go through the 2 holes in the frame. You have one from the battery goes to it, I think. Yeah, battery into 18. That goes to your lighting switch, and then back out of your switch somewhere is another terminal that you just bolt down, and it goes down to the brake light switch. I think 20's brake lights, yeah, stop light switch, and that's it. And also feeds the, no, that's right, your coil feeds that, and that should relay. Anyway, it's wiring up a military one is completely different from wiring up a civvy one. Civilian's much easier to wire up, but again, if you get the right book, it tells you where everything is connected to. This is for big twins, but it's the same shit. Right, so you've got wiring diagram with current and voltage regulator. Okay, so this has got a voltage regulator. WLA hasn't got one, so that's 46 and earlier on a big twin. I know that's irrelevant. That's the one with the relay. So that's wiring diagram without current and voltage regulator, 46 and earlier models. So that is your basic wiring diagram for a civvy one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's only a 5-position switch. It's a basic, simple wiring. There's nothing complicated about it. But if you get one of these, or I would imagine it's got a free brush generator on it and a relay. but they're very simple. Look, A, 3-wire cable, blah 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 blah. It tells you which bits of the loom, A, B, C, D, yeah. And then number 1, cable A, so out of A loom, red wire from junction terminal, I'll read that, 15. Cable B, it tells you how many are connected to it and where they go to.
Yeah.
It's a very simple wiring diagram, but they're quirky in as much as you have to get the right year for what you've got. So if you get a 3-brush generator with a relay that's bolted onto the engine casing on a WLA, hasn't got the junction box beneath the coil on the seat post, then it's just a bog standard wiring diagram. Again, without actually knowing exactly what's there, but all the information's out there. You just got to make sure you type in the right thing.
Yeah.
Like if he's got a 49 wiring diagram, I think that's the same as a 48, but 47 is different.
Yeah.
It all does exactly the same thing. It's just where your junction boxes are.
Okay. This is an email from Stefan from Sweden. I have a 45 that spills oil all the time.
Yep.
I watched your videos on YouTube with great interest, and it is very educational. But I have one question: where does the oil escape? I will lap the seat for the ball bearing, and if that doesn't work, I will mount an oil tap on the feeding tube.
Yep.
I'm not really a Harley Davidson man. I own a Vincent Black Shadow, and that's my first love.
Well, I don't blame him.
So where does the oil escape?
Basically, the crankcase, because it's what you call wet sumping, the sealing on the ball bearing's gone, it fills up the crankcase to the level of the crank pin and just comes out into the primary casing, drips out through the bottom of the primary casing into your skid pan or straight onto the floor.
Yeah.
It's what you call wet sumping. If the ball bearing doesn't seal it, by all means put a tap on it. Yeah, it's the only way you will 100% definitely stop.
I think we did that in a video once, didn't we?
I think we did, but in quotes, the ball bearing, if it's all set up right, new spring, make sure you get new springs, because the amount of wrong springs that we've had in oil pumps is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because they're all set to a certain rate and a certain length. I've seen springs that long in them, you know, ones that you can put a bit of paper on them and they'll squish down.
Yeah.
They've got to be the right spring, new ball bearing, and seat the ball bearing, and you should be okay. I mean, they will all seat by a little bit, you know, two ways about that. And the other thing to check is when the bike is running, that the generator is sealed onto the casing, because if that bit will piss out of there if it hasn't got the gasket in there and it isn't sealed nicely.
Yeah.
But generally, if you do get oil pumps that are so knackered, you can't do them. It doesn't matter how many times you lap it in. If they're knackered, they're knackered.
Yeah.
But generally, a new spring, make sure you get a new spring. That's the major problem with them. People just bung a spring in it and think it'll work. It doesn't. So lap it in, new ball bearing, and basically the oil comes out where the crankcase is filled up so much, it comes out where the drive sprocket is, because there's no oil seal on it.
Yeah.
It just pours out of there into the casings, into the primary casings, and just drips into the tray or onto the floor.
And that's not a result of having too much oil in there. It's just the
No, you can't. The only thing with too much oil is if you ride it, obviously it gets hot, the oil expands, it'll come out the lid, it'll come out the filler hole, out the filler cap. If you overfill it, yeah.
Why on cars, if you overfill oil, does it cause that white smoke to come out of the exhaust?
It's all to do with aeration of the oil. It's got, as it expands, if you've overfilled it, it's got nowhere to go, and it starts aerating. Oil bubble or air bubbles come into your oil, and then the oil, you might as well run it with water in it. The oil isn't doing anything. Hence, it changes mixtures. It does all sorts of weird things. Yeah.
And that burns it off.
Eventually, it'll burn it all off. Yeah.
Yeah. You see cars going down the road with just smoking like crazy.
Well, that's normally valves or rings gone.
And most people say, "Oh, I got too much oil in there."
Yeah.
No.
It can do it, yeah, but basically put the right amount of oil in it.
It's not difficult, is it?
No.
Dipstick.
It's not a dipstick. Hey, go on, son.
I'm not sure if this is a question. Paul Wood 682. On my Yamaha vacuum fuel tap, it kept leaking over and over. Last time I pulled it apart and realised the body of the tap on the side where the diaphragm sits and the cap were both warped.
Yeah.
I flattened them both on a flat steel surface using wet and dry sandpaper, and hey presto, he don't leak anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good observation, like when I was doing the Kawasaki one.
Yeah.
Exactly what we did, flatted it all out on a bit of sandpaper. Because they're made of Mazak, monkey metal.
Yeah.
It's a very, I can't remember what content it is. It isn't proper cast aluminium. It's an alloy of some sort. All carburetors are sort of made of it. It's just horrible stuff. Over the years, it can turn to powder, it can crumble, it can crack, it warps. It's just horrible material. Yeah, but like I say, as long as you've got enough meat on it, on your we've got a proper, I can't remember what it's called now, flat plate, for the word that I can't remember. A bit of sandpaper, WD-40, sand it back, and you can see the shine on it, where it's a high or a low. Get them flat, yeah, you've got half a chance then, yeah.
Okay, for some avolikateshwara, he says, I've got an M88 on my WLA.
Yep.
Throttle won't fully open. Throttle lever has 41mm movement, but throttle cable only has 36. So I'm losing 5mm somewhere. Checked cable, slide and spiral. They all run smoothly. Throttle also opens and closes smoothly. Any idea what could cause this?
Yep. Two different, well, have you got any, if there's any free play in the twist grip,
yeah.
Okay, so your spiral's okay, that's working, and all it does, it goes in a groove at the top, but you've got a pin, you've got a oblong shaped washer with a hole in,
yeah.
Then you've got a round washer that goes on top. You only put it on one way because it's concave on the top. As long as all of those are in there, then the next thing is, has it got the right control arm on the top of the carburetor? Because they made gazillions of different ones.
Okay.
41mm a throw sounds like quite a lot. Somewhere in here. So your needles. Right, there you go, look. Side valve throttle levers, look. So you've got all of those different types, 4 different types there, yeah?
Yeah.
So left to right, used on 29 to 33 Schleber carbs. 37 to 48 side valve, so that's the one you want. So you could end up having people bend them, cut them, do all sorts of weird things with them. So it could have the wrong throttle arm on the top, which obviously the length of the throttle arm adjusts how much throw you got. The shorter the length of the arm, the less twist you need to open it fully.
Yeah.
So it could be that. There's nothing else it can be realistically. So if you've got a clamp screw, you can set that, you hold your butterfly shut and you undo your idle adjustment screw,
yeah,
till it's just coming through the brass. You have a lock screw and an idle adjustment screw, and then the actual clamp bolt that holds it at the top, so you hold your butterfly shut with your fingers in the carb, twist it round so you lock up the clamp screw, but making sure you've still got enough thread coming out so you can adjust your idle.
Okay.
If you've got any free play in that top, you can be worn handlebars, but if you're missing that round washer or the flat washer, you'll never get it to go on at full throttle. Only other thing is if the solid cable in the end of the slider is moving slightly, that could possibly do it, but you'd know that riding it, it'd be all over the place. So yeah, our work here is done.